The veil between life and death is thin in Keshanar. Everyone knows that eventually they will have to face the judgment of Anubis. That's a new one. He better make his sleight of hand roll. Ra-Memnon and his people escaped the lightning-blasted Catharan Desert and its many dangers. They came to a lush delta, and there they founded the glorious city of Keshanar. Here, Ra-Memnon made a deal with the gods, offering allegiance in exchange for divine magic and immortality for the pharaohs of Keshanar. Each pharaoh is only chosen by the Phoenix, from among the most worthy Keshite citizens. This is the Phoenix Covenant. Powerful forces preserve it, but some seek its destruction. Sed is in timeout in Duat, the underworld, as punishment for killing his brother Osiris. He is tasked with keeping the forces of Apep at bay, but Sed tires of his confinement. And his agents are always at work. By the way, I'm Mop-Hotep, a humble sanitation dusker here in Keshanar. Somehow my soul got trapped in my skeletal body. Mind you, keeping Keshanar clean is a pretty cool job. I mean, look at the place! Flying obelisk act out the lazy dreams of dead pharaohs, the temples, the monuments, the bathhouses, oh, and the highly efficient sewer system. Just dump your refuse in the nearest troll hole, and the sewer creatures of the downtown will consume it for you. This place rocks! The scribes of Orthane have provided you with new spells, monsters, species, subclasses, and magic items to support your quest. The architects and builders of Taha created the entire city of Keshanar in 3D, in the Unreal Engine. 25 million square feet of city, with hundreds of unique buildings for players to explore out of game, and for DMs to show the players where they are in the city. Need a last-minute battle map? Just push a button to strip off the top of the buildings and export a VTT-ready image, complete with the grid. You can even adjust the lighting. Come to the kingdom of Keshanar, where ancient Egypt comes alive.
Hey, I'm making a little note here. Greetings, Keshites. Thank you for joining our live stream tonight. I am excited about this one. This is my least planned and prepared one. We just came back from Atomicon, where it was interesting. It's really like kind of a film festival. It's not really a gaming festival, but we were the only game in town there. So we had a table, and actually some of our backers came to see us there. So that was a real honor to meet them in person and a real pleasure. And we got to run several Keshanar-themed one-shot games, including the one we've released, which is Perfect Trap. And, there's a couple more they're going to be dropping. There's 4 in total. And also the Quick Start Guide. So we're going through layout on those and final edits. And as we kind of progress along here towards, the big fulfillment date, then we're going to drop those one-shots. And the thing about the one-shots is they are historical, right? So those all happen in the past, in Keshanar's history. And that way it doesn't give anything away in the campaign. And then also I think that your players, having been kind of participated in some pivotal events in Keshanar's history, will get a kind of a sense of engagement, kind of deepen a sense of engagement in terms of having been there and done that kind of in the past when all that was going down. So my goal today was to share with you kind of where are we at? Like, how much of the manuscripts are written? What's left to do? And also and do a little bit more of a deep dive into the materials themselves and like the other stuff in the Kickstarter, which is going to revolve around mostly like minis, the tomb tiles, the canopic jars, the dice, and then the D20 of Destiny. Because most of the other stuff is like printed things, although I do have the printed maps to share what that looks like, the cloth map. The rest of the maps I can share on Discord, and they're going to be printed, and the battle maps, etc. And some of those, the battle maps are going to change because until we have the campaign completely locked down, that's going to determine, where the big kind of boss fights happen and the big encounters. We want to make sure that we provide the laminated battle maps for those specific ones. So everything's kind of staged based on the order of operations. So here's the manuscript. Kingdom of Keshanar, been working on this, I don't know, 30 years, right? But I've been homebrewing it since high school, but I've been writing it seriously, like with an intent to publish it for going on 5 years now with a team. And, the team includes, our Egyptologist, right? Dr. Jill Waller, whom you met. And we did a couple live streams with her. And also Mark's Brothers has worked with me full time now. Like he was kind of helping and pitching in along the way, but he just, very, foolishly, courageously quit his high paying job in the tech industry and is actually full time with Orpheum Productions now. And he is handling all of our mechanics, which is great because that's not really my strong suit. I'm more the creative story guy. And he's real detailed about the mechanics. Like he has spreadsheets upon spreadsheets to figure all that stuff out. And the SRD just came out, so that's good because that's the thing that was holding us up. So I'm going to go through this a little bit. This is the setting book. This is what we have so far for the campaign. If anything, we're like in trim mode, trying to cut stuff down instead of add more stuff. And then here is all of our mechanics. This was the thing that we have to do the most catch up on. It's all the stat blocks for all the monsters, the spells, the NPCs, etc. This is the thing we have to do the most catch up on because the SRD just dropped. And so we were waiting for that to happen that's our constitution for how we're able to go forward and produce this content under the open license that's provided by WotC, right? So we want to make sure that we stick to the letter of the law that doesn't threaten our ability to operate under that license. And make sure that our lawyers review it and everything, and we're doing all that right. So I'm not going to do too much review on this tonight, but because again, it's subject to change now that we have the SRD, but you can see how much we have. Here you go. This is the amount of content that we have produced. This is double-sided, no art. Double-sided, no art. So our goal now, honestly, is to get this stuff down into the 2 books, right? To the setting book and the campaign book. And so first, I think I already have this set up. So I think I'll switch over to talk about some of the physical goods in the Kickstarter and kind of show you, exactly what you're getting. And then at the end then I can clear the tomb tile setup that I put on here. I can clear that off, and I can go through a little bit through some of the book, like the setting book. I'll talk about that a bit. So if Nick, you will go ahead and switch over to the other camera. I'm just going to wait a second here so I can see it on my screen because I'm on a delay, so I can see what you guys see. We set up a webcam here so we can do nice close-ups of it. And I'm still on a delay. And see if you have any questions. Yep. Hey guys, cloth map Atomicon. Yes, Chris. Hello. Thank you. And it was great to see you there. Okay, yeah, you can see the tomb tiles. That's great. All right, so here's the thing. Like you've seen dungeon tiles, right? And dungeon tiles are awesome. Hi, Carolyn. She's been amazing. And that's the same Carolyn that I think it is in helping with the alpha testers and finding all the glitches in the 3D City, which we put that out like a week ago. And the alpha testers have gone through and found thousands of little glitches. Nothing's really broken. So that's, I think, a big testament to the developers. Like it works really well. But there's little things that need to be textures that are missing and things like that. I think one of the testers, was it Dr. Fiorkod? Was it, or one of the others? He found a way to get into the Ellen Rowan embassy in the Hesu district, and inside it's like this blue glowy temple thing. It's like there's a piece missing on the roof, and you can get inside of it. And I'm like, well, we're totally leaving that because that's cool. So that's been really fun going through all of that with you, and lots of prizes going out. There's 50 Easter eggs in there, so I'm sure you haven't found them all yet. I know that our aide de camp, Emily, who is our mistress of mayhem, Mom, M.O.M. She kind of takes care of all of us. She is tallying up all the submissions that you've put into sending spells, so we can tell you which prizes you've won and how many and that kind of thing. I gave out a couple of preliminary ones for the people that kind of really jumped in and engaged super hard and found a bunch of stuff. I'm like, most of the prizes for that are going to be electronic because we don't want to, no point in spending money on shipping costs. So there'll be a lot of Amazon gift cards, that type of thing you can spend on 2024 player's handbooks or monster manuals or DM's guide, whatever you need. And I think there's $1,500 in prizes in total on that. So yeah, back to this. So these are the tomb tiles. And there are dungeon tiles out there, and the idea being, okay, you're running a table game. I'm gonna grab a mini here and stick it on there. This is a really nice thing to be able to set up, right? So that you can have a more realistic, version of whatever scenario you're creating. And so you get a bunch of these. I can't fit the whole set in here, but I think that I got the numbers here. You get 14 floor. Well, let's see. 14 wall pieces like this. This is a wall piece, and then you get 16 floor tiles, which are the regular floor tiles like that. And then you can swap those out and make a piece of the downtown, which is the sewer system, the extensive sewer system underneath the Keshanar, where a lot of adventuring and smuggling and that kind of thing happens. You saw Mop in the video bragging about how efficient the sewer system is, because you just dump all your trash and refuse and, some people maybe like dead bodies occasionally trying to hide evidence down in there, and the gelatinous cubes and the shambling mounds and adiugs and carrion crawlers, although they're not in the SRD, so that won't be in there. They just go in and eat it all, which makes navigating down there a little tricky. Got to be careful. And but they're mostly those critters down there are mostly well fed. So probably not as keen on eating adventurers, but I wouldn't count on that. And the people that do the maintenance down there are good at avoiding them, and they take fleets of armored duskers in there with them to make sure they're safe. But the cool thing about these tiles is not only are they really flexible and you can design them in different ways. So you've got like a wall piece, you've got these door pieces. The door pieces have hieroglyphs over them, like the one that I'm thinking of has the hieroglyph for gate over it. But you'll notice, and this is something that I think we're particularly proud of because we put a lot of effort and energy into it, that the masonry units on these are irregular. Right? So if you think of a brick wall, like the way we make a brick wall, you've got courses of masonry, and each course is offset a little, and then you put the next one and you offset it. But the problem with that is when there's seismic activity, aka an earthquake, it creates side-to-side motion, right? And then the side-to-side motion just shakes the walls apart. So like something like 95% of all, or maybe 99% of every structure ever built by the human race is basically back to being dust because it fell over during earthquakes. And that's true of the 7 wonders of the world. Only one still standing, the Great Pyramid of Giza, because there's basically nothing that could knock it over. And again, Egyptian, right? The rest all fell over due to earthquakes. And so the net effect of designing masonry with all these different corners and then painstakingly and meticulously filling them in like this, fitting them together, is that which is 100 times more difficult than doing it just with standard. They're all the same size and you're just stacking them up. 100 times more difficult. But the net effect of that is that it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So when earthquakes happen, they lock together. The walls lock together and they become seismic resistant. Now, we don't know if they did that intentionally but I think over 3,500 years they figured it out. Personally, that's just my opinion. And I'm working on a paper about this for Egyptology conference next year that I'm going to try to submit. To kind of discuss this, because I think there's a lot of work that is waiting to happen in Egyptology around, very specifically around building construction techniques. And one of the companies I had in the past was a building restoration company. I restored ancient temples around the world, so I know something about that. So that really interests me. So a lot of very specific effort went into the designing of these tiles, the masonry patterns and the joints between all the masonry units are actual tracings from various sites in Egypt that I took in December, like the Valley Temple, which is right underneath of the Great Pyramid of Giza on the plateau. And these tiles, which you can swap these out, right? So if you don't want to make this a sewer, then you just take these out. And you can put these guys in here. And now it's just a temple. You can also stack them up higher to make taller walls. Like I think I showed a couple of different ways you can do this. You can make a wider corridor. I'm just keeping this one small so that because it fits in our little webcam here. But the pattern of the floor tiles here, and all this would have been limestone, right? They also used granite, but they used granite more for heavy-duty structural considerations where there was structural issues. Plus, they had to bring the granite from Aswan, which is 300 miles away, whereas all the limestone for the Great Pyramid of Giza was quarried right there on site. But these limestone tiles here are the actual pattern of the tiles leading up to Queen Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, which I think is probably a restoration. I don't think it's original, but they went to the trouble to kind of fit them together in this sort of irregular pattern, whoever did that. So kudos to whoever built that floor structure by paying a lot of attention to how the ancient Egyptians designed their things and designed them to last. Like I think that, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but if we had, if human beings left the earth today, in 100 years, very few things that we've built would still be standing, because they're made out of metal, and metal rusts, and masonry. We don't build it with these kind of lasting considerations, but they certainly did, and that's why we have so much amazing stuff to study. So that's the tomb tiles, and now we can talk a little bit about the minis. So we're doing resin minis. We're looking into the future and doing them in plastic, with injection molding and whatnot. We're talking to manufacturers about that, but because this is our first one out, and we haven't even finished deciding exactly what monsters and NPCs yet. That's still some flexibility there as you kind of wrap everything up. We don't, so this is something that's kind of a little bit lagging, but here's one that's Happy, who is a influential NPC, who's a bull celestial. And then we have, of course, the legendary Tramples his enemies. If you've run a campaign with us so far, then you'll have met Tramples because he's in all of them, pretty much. He's a Mafdet Centurion Guard, so the Centaurs didn't originate in Keshanar. They came in from the north, and it's a really great story about how that happened, which I won't get into right now in the interest of time. So we'll have a couple of different poses and different ones for Mafdet Centurion Guard. Like maybe we'll have Tears of the Vanquished and Thundering Hooves at Dawn, as well as Tramples his enemies. And then we have one of my favorites, the Sewer Harpies, super creepy. You saw them in the video also. And these are actually legacy demonic spirits of the Apep, twisted, distorted worshippers that were in the Delta when Memnon first came to the Delta, and then he beat them up, and a branch from the saplings, when he was going through the desert, Geb's, in one of his revelations, Geb appeared to him and said, "Here, have this sapling. But you have to take care of it. It'll be important." And he's like, "Great, just what we need. Something else that drinks water when we're all dying of dehydration already." And then but he fed that sapling, and it grew. And when it got to the Tefnut River, and they made it out of the desert, then it grew really fast because it had unlimited water. And then when he came to the Delta, that was where Keshanar is today, they had to fight off these demons. And a branch fell off of the tree, and that became a staff that he used as a kind of first magical weapon to help accomplish that task. But a lot of them were driven into the sea or killed, but then a lot of them just went down into the Mesa, deep into the crack system, in the downtown, deep into the crack system, and just retreated there. And they kind of mutated over time, and so they're sort of like, they also go into this chrysalis stage, and then every once in a while they come out of it, and they're called harpies because they in these various times, kind of like locusts, but it's hard to figure out exactly when it's going to happen. They come up to the surface to feed, and they do it by imitating the voices of people as if they've been trapped down there. So like, "Help, I fell down a troll hole, come and get me," or kids or things like that. And they're really good at imitating. They'll listen for a while first, so they get the accents right and everything, and then they'll perfectly make that and lure people into the downtown, and the idea of rescuing them. And then they just consume them. And I actually got that idea because I lived in Israel for 5 years, doing building restoration. And the cats there was a lot of feral cats in the streets, and they used to cry, like their cattle wall sounded like kids, and they'd be like, "Help me!" And we just were positive that was like a kid, right? And so we would go down and we'd look and see what it was, and they would hide in the trash cans, and then you push this lever to open the trash can, and they'd leap out at it. So it was cats, but boy, did they sound like children, And so that's the idea behind the sewer harpies. And then here, I'm going to move these tomb tiles out of the way so we can make better room of this. Give me a second here. And these things are pretty heavy, like they're solid, right? Like I said, we're looking into making them in plastic, but there's a lot of startup costs, and we need to get a sense of how many we need and all that. So that's something that we'll look at down the road. Right now, we're printing these in a printing factory that Masterwork Studios has got set up in their garage, but with like multiple super high definition resin printers. I think we have 4 of them now, and a venting system and everything. So we're making them, and we're also play testing these to make sure the pieces aren't too thin, and that they, and won't break. And so making sure that everything's at least 3 millimeters thick, like this spear here is too narrow. So because we want to make sure when you get them to you that they last and that they're durable. All right, so what was I talking about?
Minis.
2000 minis. Yeah, more minis. So this is everybody's favorite, the Mirage Demon.
So sick. A little farther forward.
Right here.
Yeah. Nope, other way.
There?
Oh,
This way? Good?
A little farther forward.
No.
There you go.
Right.
Perfect.
Got it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we love this one. So the art for this was done by Antoine Ren. No. Art with this was done by Dariush, who is a incredible monster artist who's done a lot of work for a lot of TTRPG. We're really lucky to have him. And he just does incredible monsters. He also did most of the monsters in the book will be done by him. And then they're finished off by Jose, our illustrator, just to kind of like little finishing touches and things. But this piece, you can see it's got all these faces on it. So the Mirage Demon, what they do is they cast a projection that makes it look like they're an oasis. So they live in the desert. And then some people approach because like, hey, an oasis, great, water, date trees, great, just what we need. And then it turns out he drops the illusion because it was a mirage. And then it attacks you by sucking all the moisture out of your body. And we make use of the 2024 fatigue mechanic about that. The levels of fatigue, they've simplified it and made it a lot easier. And remember the Grumpy Dungeon Masters and Chris, they were talking about Keshanar in their podcast and kind of going through the mechanics of that. So Marks was delighted, because he does all the mechanics, about having you guys kind of like tear stuff up and really dig into it. It's a privilege to have you guys like critiquing our stuff. So that's the Mirage Demon. He's really cool. And then of course we got this giant elemental sand dragon. And it's one of my favorites. This guy's awesome. Like I think that the modeler, I think it was John, he's in the Philippines, works with us and does a lot of our modeling, did a great job of capturing this creature. So this isn't really a dragon, it's an elemental, and it's a sand elemental, and it can take any shape that it wants. But the reason why it takes the shape of a dragon is because the Keshite sphere dragons, because Apep appears as a dragon, right? And Apep is like, the big bad. But I love how the texture, you can see the sand texture here. I don't know if you can catch it in the light quite the right way, but the focus and everything. But this is pretty fantastic. This is a heavy print too, but this will be included along with the Mirage Demon and a bunch of other monsters, a bunch of NPCs. Let's see, what else do we have? We have this one. This is Kamala. So she is a banshee. I've got to be careful not to give away spoilers. That lives in this mirror in Troll Town in this abandoned house. They keep trying to sell this house, but everybody goes insane and kills themselves when they try to live there. So that hasn't been successful, but she lives in this mirror, and now it's kind of like a thing you egg on your friends to do, because if you go there and you appear to her and you tell her your worst fear, then she will tell you how you die. So I don't think I'm giving away too much just to give you that, because it's pretty common knowledge that she's there, and people do it, because it's hard to resist to have that knowledge of the future. And then it's interesting, of course, that creates some plot device complexities for the Dungeon Master, but we get that figured out. So time travel and predicting the future, the two things you want to avoid. Well, we didn't avoid it. We just figured out how to make it work. Here's another test print we have for our ever favorite Mop Hotep, or just your average Dusker. So here's a sanitation Dusker. We also have we're making more test prints now for other minis that we have the STLs finished for, and we're going to release more STLs too for you guys. But this one we had to make, like the bucket broke off because it was too thin, so we fixed that. Here's one with stop broken off.
That was a little too close there, David.
It wasn't focusing?
Yeah.
How about here?
That's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to have a couple of different poses. Maybe one's trimming the hedges in the Gebshani Gardens. This one's mopping. We'll have one specifically for Mop Hotep, having some kind of cocky stance. Because, Mop Hotep's the sanitation Dusker that somehow accidentally his soul got trapped in his Dusker body. And so he's one of the oldest entities in Keshanar now. And Cranky, got an attitude, knows a lot, interesting guy that you will bump into when you run the campaign. And then we have our Soul Core Guard, although we're modifying these. This is an early model. We think they're to Boris Vallejo, and this one has like bikini armor, and we're trying to be a little more authentic than that. So we are redesigning this one in consultation with Jordan, Lady X, who is our art director and an expert in ancient textiles. And she keeps us on track to make sure that we're using the right clothing, and also our Egyptologist, Dr. Jill Waller, she kind of advises us on this. And I don't think this is right, so that's one of the reasons why we ditched this design and went with a different one. So that's what I got to show you in terms of the minis that we have so far. Although, like I said, a lot more STLs are ready to go. Just haven't. I think that Mitch is working on making the test prints now, and so we can start playing around with them and shipping them. He ships them to me from the south where his studio is. We see how they survive the shipping and what pieces break off and all that kind of stuff, because we want to know all that before we send it out to you. And of course, let's look about dice for a minute. So we have you all know about these. So if you're a VIP, then you'll be going to getting a set of these pretty quickly, not in 6 months, because we're going to ship them out. This is something we committed to do, and it's extra expense for us, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to ship all the VIP dice pretty soon after the backer kit ends, because that's when we get all the information for all the backers. And it would have been cheaper for us to wait and do it at fulfillment, but we didn't want to wait till end of the year to give these to you. We wanted you to have stuff kind of as it's available. So these are liquid filled, sharp edged, and I know that each facet of these dice has to be hand polished. So the D20 is hand polished 20 times to make this work, which is why when they come to you, they're all individually packaged and also packaged. They're individually, each die has its own little plastic bag so they don't scratch each other, and they're all in a plastic bag as part of the holder, which has also got the cool eyeball on it. But these are a lot of fun, and they're pretty balanced. They roll well, and you get those for $1 if you back anything at $30, right? And that's a wash for us, because the MSRP on these is about $30 if you can find them for that. Sometimes it's upward of $50, and so between our discount for buying them wholesale and then the shipping, we make nothing on them. So the money that you spend on the $30 pledge goes to getting these dice to you. And the other dice that we have are the Sandstorm dice, and the people have expressed interest in these. And credit to one of our team, Ahmed Sufeti, whose idea it was to include these. But these are really cool, and they kind of do look like a sandstorm. So in some angles, when you're looking at it, and I'm waiting for my feed to catch up so I can see what you guys are seeing here.
The glitter ace, man.
Is it good?
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, so in some angles you can see it's just like sand in your face, right? But then on the side, it can see its striations where it's like blowing hard and like strathing winds. I call these the exfoliation dice. What do you say for a severe? Use these to make your save against severe exfoliation. But they're glass, and so they're pretty durable, and they have a nice weight. Sometimes I think metal dice are too heavy; they're like clunk, But these ones aren't as heavy as metal dice. Very well balanced. I can do my old balance check there for you. This is how you know I've been playing D&D for 20 years. I can spin all of the bead rolls. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep, you good.
Yeah, and they come in a case, which is right here. They come in their own case. So that's kind of nice, and you will be able to add these in the Pledge Manager when you get the survey. I think it takes 2 weeks for the survey to come out, and then you can add stuff to your pledge, swap stuff out in your pledge, and if you have a build your own bundle tier, or actually any tier, we're going through this process before. Bear with us. It's the first time we've ever done it. We haven't had a Kickstarter before, and we have consultants and other people are smarter, wiser about this because they've done it before that are helping us. But it's still a lot to figure out, and we're figuring it all out. But in the Backer Kit store, you're going to be able to rework your pledge as you like to make sure you get the stuff that you want. And then, of course, eventually people are asking, like, they can't afford it right now. What about down the road? Well, yes, once all the backers have received their... What am I doing looking here?
Oh yeah, just maybe.
Yeah, once all the backers have received their stuff, then, yes, we will make it available on our website, next year sometime, right? That people can just buy some of this stuff from our website. So, last item, I think, to talk about is something people have been excited about, which is the canopic jars. And you probably all know what these are and what they mean. So the canopic jars are, these were used in mummification to hold the organs of the mummy, and so they take the organs out and they'd seal them in these jars. These represent the 4 sons of Horus. And little adjuster thing here. How about now? Can you see them now?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. The 4 sons of Horus, and you get one of these, and it'll be filled with these handmade, hand-carved scarabs from Egypt, and they're part of our mythic inspiration system. There we go. Now you can see them. That's better. Yeah. So again, not 4 but 1, but then again, next year, like once everybody gets their pledges, we'll try to make these available on our website too, if you want to buy the whole set, for instance, right? Or maybe we can make some available as prizes too for different things. We like doing contests and prizes and stuff. So yeah, that's them. You don't know which one you're going to get. It's going to be random. It's going to be picked out of the box, and that's going to be sent to you. But they will be filled with 10 of these mythic inspiration points. These are hand-carved, and they're hand-carved and fired ceramic scarabs from Egypt. You can also make a necklace out of them because they got holes drilled through them lengthwise. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you get 10 of these, and they're all, you can tell, they're all completely different because they're all unique because they're hand carved. But I think that's really cool. They're slightly different sizes, different 2, 4, 6, you get 10 of them, different patterns. And there's nothing like when somebody earns an inspiration point to be able to just like grab one of these and toss it across the table to them. I love doing that. And then our mythic inspiration system will be another beyond heroic inspirations. You'll have that, but you'll also have the mythic inspiration system too. And that's coming together, and Marx is working on the mechanics for that, but it'll have something to do with like the god that you worship, and it's kind of some of the special abilities you get from that. And yeah, that is...
D20.
Oh, the D20. Thank you, yeah. Save the best for last. The Math Rock of Destiny. So the first D20, I think you've probably heard me mention this before, was found in an Egyptian tomb, 2200 AD. And it is now in the Mesopotamian Museum of Art. And this is a replica of it. And, it's in Coptic. So Coptic is Greek letters expressing, Jill will correct me if I'm wrong on this, expressing, Egyptian, ancient Egyptian. So it's the closest we have to ancient Egyptian. And so this was during the Ptolemaic period of Egypt, and which is why there was these Greek Coptic letters to begin with. And all we did is make it a little bigger and put the Arabic numbers on there also. And it's made by Thomas Mullins, and he makes each one by hand and paints them all by hand. So they're printed and then painted, and we've been rolling these and taking them to cons, and they're also, whoops, that guy didn't make it. I got another one. It's all right. We'll make this happen. So because they're hand painted, they're all kind of unique and different. And I just think it's a really cool way to make death saving throws, is using, the D20 that was invented by the ancient Egyptians. Why not, right? So you get one of those, and again, they're all completely unique because they're all hand painted. And that's it. So no, there's other stuff obviously in the Kickstarter, but it's mostly like, the books obviously, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. And the maps. And, the map. One other thing. So you've seen the 3D city, and a lot of you are in there playing around with it and finding bugs and looking for getting bug bounties and finding the Easter eggs. So after that was finished, then we figured, we still need a 2D map. So we had Yose, our illustrator, he spent like 2 years on this thing, building a giant version of basically redrawing the whole thing from the 3D city and doing it kind of like on the inside of a pipe so that you can see over top of buildings. It's a specific style that was used in like even in the up to like medieval times to be able to show a city kind of like so you can see more of the building. So because if you're looking at it head on, then you can only see the buildings in the front, right? But if you put it in this half pipe kind of thing, then it's a trick that you can use to be able to see more of the city. So that's how we built this 2D version, and you're going to get a cloth map of this. We haven't picked our manufacturer yet. We're talking a couple of different ones, but we keep doing test prints to find who gets the most vibrant colors and what fabrics get the best they're most durable, etc. So we're taking our time and making sure we get the perfect possible manufacturing process for this. But you'll see this is the city, and then you can use this as a tablecloth on the table to kind of like really quickly point out where you want to go in the city, what you want to do. It shows the different cold areas, all the major buildings like see Temple of Ra there and the palace and Great Pyramid of Memnon, etc. So that'll be included if you get that tier. And same deal later. Once everybody gets their rewards, this is the kind of stuff that we'll sell on our website too. So let me take a minute and also see if there's any questions. Yeah, they are durable, Chris. So are the tomb tiles, although the tomb tiles are hand painted, and it's actually a doctor that does it. He loves doing terrain painting, because the unpainted ones look like this. So he does an incredible job of painting these. And I like how the sewers have like stuff floating in it and whatnot. There's a lot of unique, cool details in this. So as far as the content, I wanted to just go through a little bit of this just to show you this isn't like just a stack of blank papers that we printed out. You're going to do this one, I think.
Okay.
Can you see it?
No, yeah. You'll be on there.
And let me see if there's any questions. Clothing style based on a particular era. That's a really good question for Lady X because she's our expert. But I think it's, we run into this a lot because 3,500 years of history, things do change. I think we're going with sort of broader trends. I don't know if it's any specific area. That's a really good question. I'm going to have to get back to you because, again, I have an expert that's figuring that out. So I'll talk to Lady X and talk to our Egyptologist, Dr. Dill Waller, and I'll get back to you on that. But, the men have Shendit and, like, one thing this does bring up is, like, we do tend to overuse tropes a little bit, like the neck piece that men would often wear, because it's something that we iconoclastically associate with ancient Egypt. We fall into that trap a little, like the Nemes. You saw like one of the NPCs is wearing one. That really the pharaoh wore that, but we were kind of like extended that a little, say that the pharaoh and those of the pharaoh's house. Pharaoh means great house, actually. That they would wear it, like sometimes I see others wear it, or nobility or something. Mostly because like some of those aesthetics are handy, right? They're just really useful to be able to project the feeling and the aesthetics of ancient Egypt. But that's a great question about what period, and I'll get back to you on that. See if there's any other cool questions in here that I missed. Yeah, Thomas, we're going to deep dive through these pages. Not right now, but I'm going to show you some of it. I just printed that out. Oh, the card samples. So the cards, I don't have them printed samples, but I have the art. So I can, and I've been sharing that in the Discord. So if you catch me on the Discord in the Let's Chat Say channel, I've already put a bunch of samples of the cards out there, but I will put more. The cards also is something that's taking a little while for us to kind of get going on because we had to wait for the SRD to finish all the stuff for that. So you can see this is pretty much without art. This is the original manuscript, and it's talking about the heads and soul crush, which you might have run into. I dropped a few pieces of art in there, like this is one of the original playtest groups, first playtest groups. That's actually Marx's character, her architect of adventure and head of all our mechanics. He's up there setting up our backer kit stuff right now, so we can get the store up and running at the end of the campaign. But that's his character, and that's my partner and some friends, and if you go into the Rock and Roll Cafe in a 3D City, you'll see this on the wall. And we're going to do that too for the photography contest. So the art and the photography contest, we're going to include it. You'll see occasionally screenshots from 3D. This is actually an old one from when it was in Blender instead of the Unreal. It's much prettier now that it's an Unreal because it's got weather and lighting. So much better. That is also an old one from the Unreal, which is actually interesting looking at to see like how much clunkier it was than now that we have it in Unreal. Yeah, so this is the adventure. Right, I just suddenly realized that. So you're meeting the NPCs, you see the stat blocks in here, like, you know, there's maps and puzzles and traps and the start of the Mega Pyramid dungeon. There's another map, can't show you that too long, that'll be a spoiler. You know, and then like a sweet pus disease, which is a disease that's plaguing people that started during the deprivation when the Phoenix came and chose a slave to be the pharaoh, and then they locked him up instead of putting him on the throne, and then divine magic stopped and diseases started breaking out because they couldn't cure them. You know, all the inserts for like the letters and things, like that's stuff that we have a stretch goal to print those. I don't think we hit it, but we might in late backing and whatnot. So this is what we have for the adventure so far, which we consider to be about 65% completed, maybe a little more. We're rejiggering it to kind of fit some more recent decisions we made in the overall Ordatu lore, Ordatu being Orthain Duat Aru, right? And then here's the setting book. This is the monster. This is the one that's more closer to 90% done. So Kingdom of Keshanar, you can get it upside down, but that's just the table of contents. You know, it's extensive, right? And here's my forward. A lot of poetry written by historical figures. And, you know, here's all the subclasses. These are in a separate document. Those are in this giant all mechanics, subclasses, and spells document. So honestly, this whole thing has to be, we have to shrink this down because we don't want it to be that thick. But I think that when we go into layout, well, but then we're also adding art. But, you know, we have a lot of material that we're shelving for release, for pretty soon release after. So here's the Pantheon, all the gods covered in detail, with the help of Dr. Waller to kind of like, she digs into actual spells that people would use to call upon them, and then we kind of gamify it as best, you know, to make it fit in. So this one's the section on Anubis, which you see is like it's about a page and a half, little pocket text, which is a call out thing about Amit, you know, who just eats the souls of those who don't pass the spell 125, which is the weighing on the scales. And then Ash. So, you know, there are a lot of Egyptian gods, and everybody has their favorite. There's about 3,000 of them. We picked 33 to start with. Babi, Bast, they're in alphabetical order. Kathara is a new one that we added. Bubo is a new one that we added. They're not Egyptian gods. Dua is not an Egyptian god. Dua is an internet myth. And we left it in for reasons that will become clear in time, but not a god. It's an internet myth that there was this god of sanitation or cleanliness or toilets. And I just want you to know that we're aware of the fact that that is not a real god. And we'll come up, you will find out why we left it in there like that in due time, and it's an entertaining reason. Hathor, very important god. Horus, you know, protection of the pharaoh, and that's where the Horus Guard's based on. Isis, of course. Khonshu, god of travelers, voyages, sea travelers. Ma'at, goddess of cosmic balance. Mafdet, head of the who kind of Mafdet Centurion Guard, all follow her. She's like protection and hunting. And Nephthys, which is preparation of the dead, wife of Set. Wait, wife of Set or Anubis? One or the other. Neith, interesting. Weavers, archers, new primordial goddess of the void. Anyway, so lots of gods, right? Ra, Sekhmet. And then we get into some of the factions like murders and acquisitions, M&A, right? They're the sort of kind of like the assassins faction or Assassin's Guild. And there's Shishat. Actually, there's a call out there. Shat, we're still through the gods. Sobek, Shu. Okay, then we get into some like the basics behind the Phoenix Covenant. What is it? The Pharaoh, the Covenant Stone, and the history of Keshanar. This is actually probably more like 10 pages long. We summarize it to just a few pages, again, because we'll release more later. You know, we want to kind of stage the release of the material. Because then you get to the actual city of Keshanar. So we talk about the walls, and we talk about beautiful art, like there's a dua. That piece is fantastic. This color printout doesn't do it justice. It was done by Andrei Dragomir. Dragomir, that is his actual name. You can't make this up. And then encounter tables and a list of all the calderas and who's the calderon of the mayor, and like an interactive map, a map of them showing them by size. And then there's 200 different locations, or 250 locations roughly in this city. I think that we've got the major and minor some of the major and minor locations in each caldera, and then plot hooks associated with them, which may or may not fit into what's happening in the campaign depending on when you access these. But it's up to the DM, to determine how he wants to integrate those into the story arc that you're creating together, if they want to integrate them at all. And then all the temples on top of the list of the gods, the temples are detailed. Like this is the Great Observatory up top, and who is the NPCs you encounter there, Temple of Shu. So there's a lot dedicated to the gods and to their temples, and then minor locations like Blood of the Phoenix Brewing Company, Dark Price Prison, which is the main prison. Okay, now we're getting into Troll Town, which is sort of the Soho, fun Bourbon Street area of, we got the Gnome Depot, which is like where you get all your adventuring gear. I realize we have a few puns in here, and we also realize there's a cost to the puns, so we try to keep it at a minimum, but sometimes we can't help ourselves. And I know that you guys are all guilty of that too. When I was running Many Hands Make Light Work, the hands and heads and arm puns just never ceased, to the point where I had to start dishing out psychic damage to everybody within hearing distance. Yeah, all these different temples. Okay, so let's just skip ahead. Then we got, there's still the calderas, because that's what the city's all about. This is all just city description. There's Astraline's Tower. Some of you have been there. Cirque de Pazu. Some of you have been there in a couple of our one shots. And it has to do with the foreign district with the embassy of Kemsin and the embassy of Elanroel. And but one of the things I really like about how actually Leo Andrade, one of our writers, he made really huge contributions working with Jill on the god descriptions, is that each god has an entreaty. And I just like that thing. So it's like, if you want to entreat your god, what do you have to do to accomplish that? And I think it's up to Marks, but I think this might integrate somewhat with the mythic inspiration system. But there's blessings, locations, physical description, and divine relationships, and other important info about each god. So I like the meat that we boiled all that down to. This is, then of course there is also not just Keshanar City. There's the Catharan Desert, encounters, what you find there. Even though I don't think they could always wander out to the desert if they want. And they certainly can do that, or go anywhere in the Empire, because Keshanar City is just the capital. But the idea is that at least the beginning of the campaign, at least this first book, Rob Nenman, The Book of Gates, will happen in Keshanar City. But you never know, if people want to go out to the desert, you can. It's all there. These are all removed because they're in that separate document. It's all the magic items and stuff, and all the monsters. Also, sort of just brief descriptions. So that's it. So I just walked you through pretty much the whole manuscript for the setting book, and you can see it's big. All right, questions. Yes, a pronunciation guide. That is such a good question. So there's a glossary. It's pretty big. It is going to have a pronunciation guide. I am trying to avoid Egyptian words that require our mouths to do things they're not accustomed to doing. So I've been sensitive to that. So for instance, like the villages, the outlying villages, Ementet and Labat. So it's because the word for west is difficult. I might be dyslexing these in my brain. But Ementet was like, okay, that's pronounceable, so we're gonna leave that, and it means like west, right? But the word for east is difficult to pronounce, really difficult. So instead I made it Labet, who was a goddess of the Eastern Desert. So in some cases where I'm using actual Egyptian terminology, I am attempting to make it easy so we can actually pronounce these words. But there will be a glossary. There already is a glossary started. Didn't even bother printing it out, but it's another stack of papers. And that will have a pronunciation guide in it, phonetic pronunciation guide for all the words, which Dr. Jill will help us with. Like the map sometimes, yep. And Should be hieroglyphics for each word. Yeah, maybe. I don't see why not. Yeah, we like, as you know, like the hieroglyphics in the city, the textures we use in the city are real hieroglyphics that say the things we want them to say. And we're constantly feeding phrases to like mottos of different factions to Jill to do in hieroglyphics. So we will definitely have, I don't know if we'll do the whole glossary in hieroglyphics, but probably the words that should be done in hieroglyphics we will. All right. And that's a lot. We have 10 minutes left. I'm just going to dig through and see if I missed any good questions in here. Oh, yeah. So, Thomas, excellent question. In the future, will you add more gods and goddesses? The answer is absolutely. We are already planning a supplement to which will be a Pantheon supplement, which will be all about adding more gods and goddesses. And it was hard for me to trim down the number, and 33 was still a big number. But they all have specific temples that are designed sort of in specific ways, almost all of them, and unique buildings. And it was a lot of work to create those buildings. Because I would sort of sketch them out, and also had launched some design contests to come up with cool designs. And then when we had a design that we were happy with, we gave it to Yelze, our illustrator, and he's an architect by training. So then he would actually create architectural elevation. I can show you these. If you catch me on Discord, I'll show you these drawings, and then we would take that and we would give it to the Blender person, who was Miguel, and Miguel would create it in Blender based on those elevations. He'd pass it off to his brother Yas. These are the two guys that work with Mitch from who's head of that part of the project, a 3D project from Masterwork Studio, and then Yas is an expert at Unreal, and he would place it in Unreal and texture it and kind of make it all work together and make the city make sense, and so you can walk around. And extra shout out, thanks again to all the alpha testers who have been spending hours and hours and hours going through the city. Oh, one of them also, we really appreciate you volunteering to, I forget your handle name. I'll find it and call you out again next time. But I asked for somebody to walk from one end of the city to the next, as I was curious if you just start at one end and not see the whole city, like you don't detour north into Trolltown and come back. Just walking from gate to gate, from east to west, is 20 minutes. Takes 20 minutes as a character just to walk across, which is pretty interesting. That kind of jives with our sense of how big the city should be. And it's probably more like 60 minutes if you want to really kind of walk through each caldera with some intention. But that's like as a crow flies. See if you have any other questions. Yes, Carolyn, you need to move to a cheaper country, and then we can ship stuff to you less expensively. I don't know if on shipping, this has kind of been continuing to be a problem. As right before we kind of had everything on lockdown and ready to go, we launched the Kickstarter, tariffs dropped and blew up our entire strategy because we were printing and fulfilling in China. And so now we're like, okay, we can't do that. So let's just go back to the drawing board. And we have done that. And now we have a fulfillment partner that we're like 99%. We just want to announce it by getting their permission on a press release. But it's somebody that you probably know that does lots and lots of TTRPG Kickstarter fulfillment. Like, this is what they do. They're amazing. They know all the ins and outs. We've already filed for our EORI number, so we can import goods into Great Britain now in the EU. And so then we're going to actually palletize and ship the materials that we want distributed in UK and Europe to this fulfillment house, and then they will do it from there. It will drop the shipping for international goods by 75%. Because the way we did it is a dumb way to do it. Live and learn, but we figured the price of shipping it all from here. And again, because our fulfillment just kind of strategy got demolished by tariffs at the last second. So a lot of our international backers were like, oh, well, kind of gave up on us because it took us a while to come up with an alternative solution. And, the tariff thing is constantly evolving also. But we did come up with a really good solution, and we're working through all the legalities and setting up that relationship. And they're going to have physical goods, books, dice, minis, etc., inventoried there and stored for us. And then as people order them, and also for the Kickstarter fulfillment, it'll ship out from the UK. So instead of like $115 to ship 2 books to the UK, which is what it costs if you go to the library, go to the post office and you ship it from here, it'll be like $25 or whatever it is today to ship that kind of like the 2 6-pound books or whatever it is, like 7 or 8 pounds maybe, just door to door in the UK. It's much, much cheaper. So we are working with BackerKit to set up our BackerKit store. It's going to take 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, you'll get a survey coming out. You will be able to adjust your tiers, add things that you want that you didn't get. You'll be able to do it at that lower estimated shipping cost. The shipping will then be deferred. So how most Kickstarters do it, okay, is they say the shipping is probably going to be between this and this. It'll be between $25 and $40. But you don't pay it until fulfillment, which might be a year later. So if the prices go radically up, or there's tariffs that get added onto that, those get added onto that estimate and you pay that later. So the only silver lining on our high shipping fees is this, that we've committed as a company that we are going to refund the difference over $3 if it turns out that we took too much shipping. We're not going to make any money on shipping. In fact, we're probably going to lose money on shipping because we're eating the cost of shipping your VIP dice to you early, right? So that you get them like in a month rather than having to wait 6-8 months to get them. You're going to get them right away. And that's extra shipping that we're going to cover. And then if the shipping is more than what we've taken for whatever reason, we will eat that difference. So we're guaranteed to not make money, probably lose money on the shipping. We're not here to make money on shipping. We're here to produce this content and get it to you and get it in your hands so you can run it. The last thing I want to mention is, but anyway, in the BackerKit store, they will have this new cheaper shipping cost because we have this UK fulfillment partner now. So that will all be kind of explained in there. And if you have any questions, find me on Discord. I answer everybody's messages. Emily, our Mistress of Mayhem, is on there constantly on the Keshite Conclave in our Facebook group or on Discord. We all try to spend a little bit of time there, the whole team, to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. You can also DM me. I'm raw_memnon. I will answer all of your questions. Let's see. Any other last questions from anybody while we have you? Yeah, you're right, Carolyn. They don't even put the vowels in, right? And we don't know how they pronounce their vowels. So I was talking to Dr. Stuart Smith, who is an Egyptologist, who was so that was at the RC conference, right? Which is the American Center for Research in Egypt, and it was in San Francisco. And Brooke, who are head of our marketing, she and I went out there, and we were a sponsor, which is great because they got up to announce their sponsors. Like, we'd like to thank the National Geographic Society, and we'd like to thank Keshanar, like whoever they are, so like we were in good company in terms of sponsorship. Jill and I also co-authored a paper, but we kind of got it in too late, and I think we'll be able to do a better job of submitting that next year because we'll have more data, people using the game. But it's all about archaeogaming and how we're really digging in super hard to make the culture, art, the materials and the clothing and the language and everything but the history super authentic to ancient Egypt. The demons, the monsters, the spells, like to the extent possible where it's gameable, we, really adhere to making it super authentic. What was I talking about? Why did I care about the RC thing? Oh, Stuart Smith. So like he is the Egyptologist that was the consultant, Dr. Stuart Smith, on The Mummy, and also what's the other really big one? Oh, Stargate, on the Stargate movie and The Mummy. And so he actually was telling me that, like, for instance, Ramses, the way that it's pronounced, it's not the way that we pronounce it. And I recorded it, but it was like a kind of a guttural Ramses, something like that. I have it recorded. So and this goes back to what Carolyn was saying with regard to the vowels, is like we don't know how they pronounced it, but the reason he was able to figure that out is because there was a cuneiform language that also had it written that does have vowel pronunciations because the Egyptians dropped the vowels, kind of like Hebrew. They don't put the vowels into words, just the consonants, and you just fill in the vowels because you know what the word is. So you can't really tell exactly how they pronounced it, but some of the words were transliterated into other languages like this cuneiform script, where you can then figure out how they pronounced it, and it's really interesting. He gave me permission. I recorded him saying it, so maybe I'll ask him if I can post it because it's so interesting. They had a very sort of more of a guttural, glottal kind of pronunciation. The things you learn when you spend your entire life building TTRPG, authentic ancient Egypt TTRPG stuff. My worst fear is talking to mirrors. That's hilarious. So, Chris, you may not. Hopefully, you're going to be running. Oh, that gets me to another thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap up, is that we're looking for playtesters. So, I've been playtesting the content for decades, and that's how I came up with a lot of it. And we've been doing some sort of playtests of like classes and mechanics with our one shots, which we do at cons. Also review real quickly our con schedule so you can see talk about that real quickly before I leave. Don't let me forget that. Shoot, what was I talking about? No sleep. Playtesters. So if you are DM and you have players and you want to playtest our content, reach out to me, because we know that we need to take the final PDFs in their final form and actually hand those to DMs. Like Chris is going to be doing this. Grumpy Dungeon Masters are going to be a playtester for us, which is amazing. And have them run it, right? And actually give us feedback based on them running it. So we can't do it from this, right? Even though this is like pretty finished, right? It's got to be from the final PDFs in the final format to make sure that people really, we don't know where people are going to be confused or struggle to find information. And we're trying to do some innovative things to help DMs access the content, make it more digestible. Like we're going to have an indexing system, which is icons along the right side of the book. And then they'll be color coded. They'll all be gray except for the one that you're on. Because people go and they put tabs all over the book, like the player's handbook. Well, we're going to do that for you, right? So each caldera will have its own. You'll be able to flip and immediately find, that's the garden caldera. That's where I want to be. So they walk from there to, maybe they're going to go east to 100 Suns, or maybe they're going to go left to the palace caldera. So this way you can just easily flip to where you want it to be, or certain factions, or the temples, or the gods. If somebody asks you a question about Anubis, you can be flip. Now there's Anubis. So we'll have that kind of integrated into the book. But all those features and everything have to be done from PDF. So we have a playtester program. If you're a DM, you have players that are excited about this. We'd like to playtest the whole campaign from the final PDFs as soon as we can possibly get them finished. You see how much progress we've made. We're really pretty far along. If anything, we're in cut mode from this 3-inch stack. This would be too much for anybody to want to run. So we're actually more condensing and putting stuff on the shelf for release later at that point. So if anything, we're in a kind of cutting mode. There's a lot we have to do in the mechanics. But those final PDFs we need playtested. So please hit me up. We will swag you and what?
Con schedule. You told me that.
Oh yeah, con schedule. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Yes. So we just came back from Atomicon. We're going to be going to MomoCon in 2 weeks, and then we have what's after that?
Gamers in Raleigh and North Texas.
Yeah, well, North Texas RPG. So we'll be going out to that one, which is a really hardcore gaming conference, which is why I like it. And what was the other one?
It's the Gamers and Geeks Expo in Raleigh.
Gamers and Geek Expo, which is here, right?
Yep. Raleigh.
In Raleigh. Mm-hmm. We're doing that one. Yeah, and Nick will be there. And also we have then we have Gen Con, Origins, maybe not in this order, and Gamehole Con. And so that's pretty heavy con schedule for us. We're trying not to add a lot more cons because we need to finish producing the product so we can get it in your hands. But we may add like Page, which is Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, or PAX Unplugged, or one of those. But that'll probably, if you want to see this too, if you go to the bottom of our Kickstarter, there's a graphic shows Khonshu, the van, right? Khonshu. They're like our puns. And also I created a channel on our Discord so that we can have like a running kind of record of everywhere Khonshu goes, right? To all the different cons. So let's see if any other last questions.
Specifics on how to reach out for playtesting is what somebody asked.
Yeah. Just hit me directly. Hit me up directly on Discord. If you don't have our Discord link, ask here, or you can also email me. It's just raw-memnon@orthane.com. I don't check my email as much as I check my Discord. But you can email me, or you can hit me up on Discord, and I'm same raw_memnon in the Discord, and we will get that. We will get you in the slot to have that happen. I'd like to get 4 or 5 playtest groups going. When we launch the playtest, we'll also have a weekly group call or weekly group Discord meeting to kind of like talk about what's going on, and people can ask questions and get clarification on things and find out what's working, what isn't working, so that we can be very quickly making modifications. Our goal is to get is to have the PDS and everything kind of ready to go by the end of the year. I know that's very aggressive. We've been criticized for that being very aggressive, and I understand. But the point is simply that we've done a lot of work already, as you can see from this podcast. This is Bible of stuff that we've written. Marks and I both are especially anxious to get this stuff out as quickly as possible so that you can start playing it. Like, that's the whole idea, right? And then we can move on to the next book, because you guys are going to blow through the first adventure from levels 1 to 10, and you're going to be immediately ready to have the second one. So we need to get this one finished, and there's not that much left to do. But layout and playtesting does take time. And then start in immediately on the second book, which is 10 to 15, which will kickstart, but probably on backer kit, and then the last one will be 15 to 20, which will have boons and like the high level stuff. And let's see, any other questions? Don't have players. Okay, yeah. Well, let us know if you're interested. Yep, and there's my email in there. Grumpy Dungeon Masters love our van. They keep threatening to steal it. So we have to kind of, when we're at a con, we have to kind of move it around, so they don't know where it is, so they don't steal it. But it's insured, I'm not too worried about it. You can make an attempt, Chris. Excellent. Okay, I think I covered all the questions there. You guys have been incredible. It's just, it's hard to believe this is finally coming to fruition after working on this for like 30 years, right? I keep changing the number because I'm embarrassed by how many decades I actually have been working on it, and it ages me. But we've been working at it really hard, like writing really hard for 5 years. But that's based on playtests that went on for 15 years and more, like 20 years before that. And I started this whole thing in high school, and here it is. It's actually happening. It's incredible. And it's the most enjoyable part is meeting all of you at cons and talking to you on Discord. And the level of enthusiasm and engagement that I'm seeing from the community, like that is incredibly humbling and gratifying. And we're super grateful because we are not doing this to make money. I 100% guarantee you we will not be making money. This is where I go to lose all my money. But, maybe after a couple of years we'll break even. But, that is not the point. Like, that we have committed the funds to doing this. I will burn down my house stick by stick to heat it till the very end, whatever it takes to get this finished. But it will be done. It will get finished. This is our life's work, and we're super enthusiastic about it, and we can't wait to get it in your guys' hands. So thank you very much, and let's continue the conversation on Keshanar Conclave and Discord. Oh, and we're going to have another live stream probably before the Wednesday, before the Kickstarter ends, which will go into some other things like the art. We haven't shown you much on the art and maps and that kind of thing. So we're going to dive into that in more detail then to talk about the really long journey it took for us to develop the style that we're using for the art, which is based on ancient Egyptian art styles, of course, but then also not so constrained by like the two-dimensionality of it that we can make some really exciting stuff too. So, but we'll show a lot of art on Wednesday, and that'll be our last live stream before the Kickstarter ends. So if you guys have any questions about any of that stuff, please just let us know. But don't worry, you can adjust your tiers after the Kickstarter ends in the backer kit. So we met with backer kit, and we got that all happening. So it just takes time to set it all up. So be patient with us, and thank you for your continued patience. But we